Okay, so today we are factoring and writing quadratic functions, so we're continuing with quadratics. We don't have graphing other than reading graphs, okay? So remember, in our last lesson, 8-5, we were finding solutions. Those were solutions when you had like plus or minus 3, or you might have had plus or minus 6, or you might have had 0. These are going to be solutions other than those, okay? So for example, when you take a quadratic equation and you factor it out, you get something like this, okay? And then what you can do with this is that you can, so step 1 says to factor your trinomial, right? If it was ax squared plus bx plus c, you would factor it out. Remember, you find factors of the first and third term that add up to the second term, and then you create your 2 binomials. So you factor your trinomial, then you follow the 0 factor rule. So since we have a quadratic equation that is already factored in example 1, we're going to follow something called the 0 factor rule, which you set each binomial equal to 0, and then you solve for x. So what does that look like? I'm going to set this binomial, 4x plus 1, equal to 0. And then I'm going to set this binomial, x minus 2, equal to 0. And then I'm going to solve both of them. Okay, so with this first one, I will subtract 1 from both sides. And I get 4x equals -1. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 4. And I get x equals -1/4. That is one solution. Now I solve for the other one. I add 2 to both sides. And x equals 2. So my 2 solutions for this quadratic equation is -1/4 and 2. Okay. All right, so what happens if we have something that looks like this? Well, we take the first term, which is x, and we set it equal to 0. We set the second term, x minus 3, and we set it equal to 0. Well, the first one is already solved for you, x equals 0. So that's our first solution. The next one, we would add 3 to both sides. Saxton, where's your paper? Okay, well, you might want to take notes on this. And then we have x equals 3. So our 2 solutions would be 0 and 3. Not bad, right? Now let's go back to chapter 7, where you're factoring a trinomial. This time, we are going to take factors of 15 that add up to 8. What are those 2 factors?
3 and 5.
3 and 5. So guess what? We have x plus 3 times x plus 5 equals 0. Now that we have it factored, we're just going to set up each binomial equal to 0 and solve for x. So I have x plus 3 equals 0 and x plus 5 equals 0. Once you get to this point, you can automatically see what your 2 solutions are, right? Without showing all of your work. So I know I'm going to subtract 3 on both sides, subtract 5 on both sides, and my 2 solutions, x equals -3 and x equals -5. So these right here would be our 2 solutions. Okay. So are there any questions so far about this? This seems pretty easy, right?
Yes. Is it only going to get 2 solutions?
No. If you end up with a negative number, remember there's no solution. But the other one could equal a positive number, and then you would have 1 solution. Okay. All right, let's look at this one. This one is not set up in standard form. And if you look at our very first step, it says make sure your equation is in standard form. So we have to make sure that we get this equation in standard form, which means that we are going to subtract 18 on both sides. And we end up with 4x squared minus 21x minus 18 equals 0. Okay. By the way, if they do call you out, just so you know, I will pick up where I left off on our notes. So I won't go through all of this again, but so I'll pick up where I left off, except for those staying. Okay, so now we have to factor this. Okay, this is when we have to factor by grouping. So we're going to take factors of 4 times negative 18, which is, let's see, 3, 2, negative, what'd you say? 72, okay. And then we're going to find factors of negative 72 that equal negative 21. All right, let's see if we can do this. Negative, let's see, negative 3 and 20. It's not going to be a negative 3. And negative, let's see, 24. Does that give us 72? Oh, it does. All right. So 3 and negative 24. Do you guys remember though, we can't write x plus 3 and x minus 24 because we have a coefficient here of 4. So what we'll do is we'll take 4x squared. And I'm going to do minus 24x here. And then we'll do the 3x minus 18. Okay. Now what we have to do is we have to pull out our GCF by dividing both of these by 4x and both of these by 3. And I know I'm going quickly, but this is a review. So I figure we kind of all know what we're doing if we remember that chapter. So we're going to take out 4x, our GCF, and we have x minus 6.
Can you go down?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. And then we take out our 3, our positive 3, and we have x minus 6. So our two factors would be 4x plus 3 times x minus 6 equals 0. And now, once we get to that, we can set up our two equations to find our two solutions. Okay. Any questions so far? Yes.
When you have like x minus 6 or x plus 6, you have to show the word.
Mm-mm. No. All right, so right here we have 4x plus 3 equals 0, and we have x minus 6 equals 0. So we're going to solve to find our two solutions. So we're going to subtract 3 on both sides, and we're going to add 6 to both sides. And I'm running out of space. So we have 4x equals negative 3, and we have x equals 6. Then we divide by 4. So our two solutions, x equals negative 3/4 and x equals 6. Okay, questions? All right, I want you all to go ahead and work on practice 1 through 4, and then we'll come back and check it. Okay, and then I'm going to pause the video so you can work. Okay, so these are the first 3. I know the last 4 takes a little bit more time, but so it looks like though most people are finished with this. So I'm going to go ahead and show practice 4. If you are not done though, I want you to not look, and then I'll give you time in just a little bit to finish it up. So here is 4. Okay, we're going to move on to page 2. Oops. Don't want to give you the answer. All right, so this is kind of simple. So basically what these two questions are saying right now is that if your solutions are 5 and 4, what would be the equation? So now you're working backwards. So if x equals 5 and 4, we're going to plug it into the standard form of the equation. However, what would that look like? What would our two binomials look like? Please don't say x plus 5 and x plus 4. They would be,
X minus 5 and X minus 4.
yes, it would be x minus 5 and x minus 4, because if you were set this equal to 0, then it would be, you would have to add 5 to both sides, which would give you a positive 5. Now, all you have to do once you do this is distribute and put it back into standard form. So we get x times x, x times negative 4, x, negative 5 times x, and negative 5 times negative 4. So then in standard form, you would have x squared minus 9x plus 20. And both of these would be your answer right here. Okay?
Oh, I get it.
All right, can you please do the next one? Okay, yep. Okay, so when we now have -3 and 6 are our solutions, so when we plug this in, it will be a +3 and a -6. So x plus 3, x minus 6. And then when you put this into standard form, you should get x squared minus 6x plus 3x minus 18. And your final answer would be x squared minus 3x minus 18. So this right here would be your answer for that one. Okay. All right. Any questions? Okay, the graph, all I have to show you when we get down here is one thing, and then you're going to know how to do the rest. So it says write an equation in factored form and then in standard form of the equation from this graph. So when it says write an equation in factored form, that means you're just writing those two binomials. So what are our two solutions on this graph?
-5 and -1.
Yeah. So if x equals -5 and -1, what are the two binomials? X plus 5 and x plus 1. So this is the factored form. Now we're going to FOIL it to get the standard form. So you should have x squared plus 1 plus 5 is going to give you plus 6x and plus 5. Okay. All right, I want you to do example 8. Okay, when you're finished, go ahead and check your answer for example 8. You're supposed to, yeah, so on all of these, I haven't been doing that, but it should be equal 0, equal 0. No. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the back. On the back, we have word problems. I love your enthusiasm. Okay, so the volume of a storage tub shaped like a rectangular prism is 24 feet cubed. So the volume is 24 feet cubed. The height of the tub is 3 feet. So height is 3. The width is W plus 2. And then it says use the formula volume equals length times width times height to find the value of W.
The length is W.
So width is W, length is W plus 2. Okay. So I'm going to draw my rectangular prism, which will not be fancy by any means. Okay.
Better than mine.
Oh, I guess it's not too bad, right? Okay, so we have a volume of 24 feet cubed. We have a height of 3 feet. So I'm going to do 3 feet right here. we have a width of W, and we have a length of W plus 2. So the first thing you need to always do is write out the formula. Volume equals length times width times height. They give it to you right here. And the next thing you want to do is you want to plug in all of your information. So I know that my volume is 24. I know that my length is W plus 2. I know that my width is W. And I know that my height is 3. And we're going to multiply all that together. Now, with multiplication, there is the commutative property of multiplication, which means that you can multiply in any order that you want, and you'll still get the same answer. Okay? So, what I would like to do first is I want to multiply 3 times W. So, I have 24 equals W plus 2 times 3W. Now, this is all written backwards the way that we've been doing it, but you could still solve it this way. The next thing you want to do is you want to distribute the 3W to W and the 3W to 2. Now, if it helps you, you could rewrite this as 3W times W plus 2 equals 24. A lot of students have a hard time going the backwards way of what you're used to, so either way will work, okay? And then in this case, you just distribute. So we end up with 3W squared plus 6W equals 24. Now we are trying to find the value of W, and whenever you have a squared unit in the problem, then you could use quadratics to solve this. So I'm going to set this up as a quadratic equation. Okay, and I'm going to come up here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 24 on both sides here and set it equal to 0. So I have 3W squared plus 6W minus 24 equals 0. Now, what do you think we need to do? Solve it by? Yeah, we're going to factor it. So we're going to take factors of 3 times negative 24 that give us a positive 6. So, oh, yeah, negative 72 and factors of negative 72 that equal a 6. First one who gets it, tell me, try. I know it's not 8 and 7, or I'm sorry, 8 and 9. 12 and 6, 6 times 12. Which one's negative?
6.
Negative 6. Okay, good job. So now remember, because this first coefficient is something other than 1, we're going to factor by grouping. So we have 3W squared minus 6W times 12W minus 24 equals 0.
Oh my word, I mixed up.
It's okay. Did you mix up the
W's and X's?
Oh. All right, so now let's factor our great GCF. So we have 3W and 3W, and then we have 12 and 12. So 3W times W minus 2, and then we have a positive 12 times W minus 2. All right, so let's set this up. We have 3W plus 12 times W minus 2. So we're going to solve. Now we can figure out what the two possible solutions are. So we're going to set 3W plus 12 equal to 0. And W minus 2 equal to 0. And solve it. So let's see, minus 12 and plus 2. So 3W equals -12, and W equals 2. And then we divide by 3. And W also equals -4. All right, I want you to look at this. What is our solution to this problem? What can W be?
-2. Or -2.
Think about integers and measurements. Integers, you know what integers are? Positive and negative numbers. And 0.
It's -4.
It can't be negative. Measurements can't be negative. So our solution is 2. W equals 2.
So.
Okay. Oh, wait, not 2 by itself, 2 feet. Don't forget the units.
So much.
It was a lot of work. Okay. Now, let's look at 10. The area of a parking lot is 2,475 feet squared. The rectangular lot has dimensions such that the length is 10 feet longer than the width. What are the dimensions of the parking lot? We have done problems like this. We have set up problems. So here we have a parking lot. It's a big parking lot. We know that the area is 2,475 feet squared. And we know that the length is 10 feet longer than the width. How would we write 10 feet longer than the width? W plus 10.
Yeah.
Which would make the width what? W. So we should also know that the area for a rectangle is length times width. So now we're going to plug in what we know and we're going to solve just like we did up at the top. So our area is 2,475. Our length, well, I'm going to do W. W is our width, and then our length is W plus 10. Okay? Now we're going to distribute our W. So we get 2,475 equals W squared plus 10W.
Yeah.
Can
Can you believe how it's thinking?
We'll figure it out. Because remember, when we figure these things out, we are using our critical thinking skills. We could do this. All right. Now we're going to subtract 2,475 from both sides. And we get W squared plus 10W minus 2,475 equals 0. And now we have to factor this.
So here, what made your minds when you were creating this?
No, I'm not going to do it for you. Look, we have negative 2,475. Okay, I want you guys to try to figure this out.
I already forgot.
That should have been a lesson. Okay, so I'm just going to record what we just did. So we took 2,475 and we took 25 and divided it into 2,475 and we got 99. These do not have a difference of 10. So I'm going to keep factoring and I get 5 and 5 and 9 and 11. And we can see here that what we need is we need a combination of these four numbers that when you multiply two of them, you get a difference of 10. So we have 5 and 9, which give us 45. And we have 5 and 11, which give us 55. And the difference here is a 10. So what we have come up with is that we have W plus 55 times W minus 45 equals 0. So now we can use these and we don't have to factor by grouping because our first coefficient is 1. W plus 55 equals 0 and W minus 45 equals 0.
Oh, what?
So W will equal -55
No,
and why no?
because
But
it's
you
a
can't have,
measurement.
Right.
they-
Measurements are negatives. So our width is 45 feet. Good. So here we go. Example 11, find the value of X if this rectangle has an area of 15 meters squared. I'm gonna have you try this one on your own because it's very similar to the one we just did. Yes, you can do it, I promise. All right, I'm gonna pause the video so you can try this on your own. Okay, go ahead and check your answer for example 11.
Wait,
Wait,
wait.
did I do something wrong?
No, I.
No, because when you add 3 to both sides, you get +3, and when you subtract 5 from both sides, you get a -5. So the only possible answer could be a 3.
Wish I knew.
Okay, we're gonna go to the last problem. So we have a triangle, same situation, except the formula is different, right? So we have an area of 36 feet squared. And what is the formula for the area of a triangle?
Base times height over 2.
Yes, area equals base times height over 2. So we're gonna plug in what we know. Area is 36,
That's
base is X. And height is X plus 1, and we're gonna divide everything by 2.
it is.
So there's 2 different things you could do first. You can multiply the numerator out, or you can multiply both sides by 2. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna take 36 and I'm gonna multiply the numerator out, and I get X squared plus 1X over 2. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to multiply both sides by 2 to get rid of that denominator. And you get 72 equals X squared plus X. I don't know why all of them are 72. That's crazy. Okay, now we're gonna subtract 72 on both sides.
It's 8 and 9 is the.
And you haven't even, okay, so we get X squared plus X minus 72 equals 0. And yes, we need factors of 72 that give us 1. That would be 8 and 9, with 8 being negative.
Yes.
So we have X minus 8 times X plus 9 equals 0. Oh, I froze. Okay, hold on just a second. Okay, so X minus 8 equals 0, X plus 9 equals 0. Well, I'm not done yet. Oh. Minus 9. And so X equals 8, X equals -9. It can't be -9. So we have X equals 8 feet as our final answer. Yay! All right, that concludes 8-6 and 7.